Welcome to our show, Conscious Divorcees. We are doing season 1, episode 2, The Healing Process. I am Claudia Lorena, and this is my co-host, Danny Morel.
Yeah. And on this episode, what we're going to talk about is something, quite frankly, that is brutal. It's difficult. It's tough. But it's something you have to go through if you ever want to find your higher self and if you ever want to find your true self, and that is healing. And I guess I'll start it by sharing with you that, as a man, healing is not something, it's not a cool word. Men don't want to heal because in order to heal, you have to go within and you have to feel. Mm-hmm. And that is something that men in particular are taught not to do at a very, very early age.
Especially in the Hispanic community.
Especially in the Hispanic community, which is why, your tequila is so popular and so forth and so on. It's so interesting you brought that up, Claudia, because in our community, the man and the picture of a man is a man that doesn't cry, mm-hmm. a man that doesn't admit when he's wrong, a man that doesn't say I'm sorry, a man that doesn't share his feelings, a man that through brute power and strength rules over his family, a man that, quite frankly, in a lot of ways, maybe I would say even pushes his wife down in a lot of ways, mm-hmm. suppresses her feelings, her emotions, her thoughts, mm-hmm. And a man that rules, his children with an iron fist. And I'm not to say that that's, in all Hispanic families, but that's how it is. That's how it is. And don't get mad at me for telling you the truth, because it's the truth. So mm-hmm. let's not fake the funk here. So for myself, part of my journey was when I moved out of the house, mm-hmm. and it was tough. Mm-hmm. And I remember, Claudia, that as I was deciding to leave, like, number one, I didn't have the balls to say I was going to leave. I didn't have that courage. I really didn't. In our relationship, my masculine energy took a hit, mm-hmm. and it was because your masculine energy was so strong mm-hmm. in our relationship. So I didn't really have the balls to do that. It took an incident to cause that to happen, and that's an incident we'll address at a later episode. But when I finally did leave, I remember, Claudia, there was only one time that you really like expressed yourself. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was like you even told me, you were like, Michelle, your friend, told you, like, just put your arm around the guy. Like, that's how touchy and feely and emotional we were with each other, that even in the midst of us losing our relationship, we couldn't even.
It was a very unsafe place for me. And so I didn't know how to be in that situation. It was really uncomfortable for me. And that comes from the rejection also, that I experienced beforehand. It was like, once you experience rejection, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Once you experience rejection in any relationship, even as a child, from your father or your parents, right, the people that you love, that guard comes up immediately.
There's a wound.
So for me, that was an unknown place for me. It was a scary and uncomfortable place for me. So I didn't know how to be like, I didn't know how to cuddle. I didn't know how to.
I remember just you touching me would make me feel uncomfortable.
To the point where we would cuddle at night and I'd start itching. I swear to God, I'd be like, it itches. My arm itches, my hand itches when we would hold hands. Like, we would hold hands at the movie theater. I'd be like, fuck, my palm. All of a sudden, my palm would itch. Like, really? It was that uncomfortable. Seriously.
But let's speak about this, because that was your body telling you your truth.
Rejecting, yes.
It was you were telling yourself your truth that you didn't want to admit.
And it was rejecting that vulnerable side of me. It was putting that guard up. It was like, I remember, like, we would go to the movie theaters and I'd put my head on your shoulder and I'd be like, it itches. Like, I would just be so uncomfortable. And
I don't have cooties, by the way.
It was a defense mechanism. Truthfully, that's what it was. And so, Danny mentioned the masculine side, right? And that's that there's a masculine and feminine spirit that we all carry. And sometimes and I had that I was living based on a masculine spirit. It was so dominant in my life, and it was just more. I grew up in Norwalk. It was just, you know, when boys would come around, I was always like a tomboy. Like it was like just like what. Like I thought I was a tough girl, and I thought that's how that's how I had to be. That's how I grew up, fighting with boys all the time, and so of course he felt that.
Yeah, and I do want to say you mentioned something that it's language that I don't believe a lot of people hear.
Mm-hmm.
You said a safe place,
Mm-hmm.
and a non-safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share with people, especially with the women out there,
Mm-hmm.
who really don't know how to feel safe within themselves, what that means and what that's like? Because I think that you're gonna help a
Did
lot
I
of
say that
women.
right now?
You just said it.
What
Yeah.
did I say? I'm
You just
sorry.
said the word safe place.
Referring to, I don't remember what I said.
Well, what does it mean to
Um,
feel yourself as a safe place?
For me, feeling a safe, feeling a safe place is coming back to myself, coming back to my womb, coming back to this area where I carry all of my emotions. You know, so some of us women, when we feel that intuitive feeling, that intuitive essence, we feel it here in our stomach, and so it's listening to that intuition, listening to that source, listening to that voice that is carried right here, and saying, okay, I am a safe place. I am okay. I am being present right now at this moment. And it's a lack of, it's taking away all anxiety. It's taking away all anxiety, and it's taking away what ego is trying to tell you.
Yeah, and I remember for myself, my healing journey began when I left the house. Now mind you, speaking of the ego, my ego was massive. It had built this beautiful, big, massive Italian Tuscan home on an acre. It was, I loved throwing parties there. I loved showing all of you my house and my view and my pool. To leave that was tough. That was tough for me. And to leave that and to go into a little, 2-bedroom apartment. It's kind of interesting because that's where my story began, when I lived with my mom in a 2-bedroom apartment. And to be in that space and to literally be alone. By choice, by the way. By choice. Mm-hmm. It's like I chose to put myself in this situation. I chose to leave what was comfortable for me. I chose to leave my big, beautiful custom home that anybody else would say, no, like, I'd rather just stay here. It's more comfortable to do that. And that's where my real healing journey began, because what I started to realize was the power of being by myself. Mm-hmm. Something that I didn't know before. Being alone in the darkness, being alone with my emotion, being alone with the guilt that I felt because I was leaving my wife and my children. I mean, that felt horribly disgusting. Horribly disgusting. I can remember nights when I was just literally just like crying and bawling and weeping. And I'll be honest, Claudia, it's like, as a man, we're taught to guard our emotions through a couple of different things. Number one is alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I remember those first couple of times I would sit there and I would just drink because it's what I knew. In my house, I had this pride of this big tequila bar, and I was the guy that you would come over to my house and you could have the finest tequila available. And I didn't have shit. I had a little apartment.
You tried to come back and grab some tequila.
I even tried to come back and grab some.
You ain't grabbing anything.
And I remember like making the decision. So no, hang on a second. You're gonna have the courage and the guts, and you're gonna have the balls to leave your family. Well, now you're gonna have the balls to deal with this. Mm-hmm. And I want to encourage some of you men. At some point in time, you're gonna have to drop that bottle, mm-hmm. and you're gonna have to go in yourself, mm-hmm. and you're gonna have to go into that pain and that emotional void that you have in your heart, and you're gonna have to deal with it. You don't have to. But if you want to find your higher consciousness, you want to find a more beautiful purpose and a more beautiful life, yeah, you are going to have to. And that's what I decided to do. And I sat there night after night after night, and I just cried and cried and cried. And I think my biggest breakthrough, the second way that men find comfort, is in women, quite frankly. And that's not fair to women. It's not fair to women because your ego feels so vulnerable that instead of going within yourself and learning to be by yourself and learning to heal, you want to use a woman and you want to use her body really for sex just to make you feel better about yourself. That's not healthy for you. It's not fair for you, and it definitely, sure as hell, ain't fair for our goddesses that are out there right now.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really huge because women do the same thing as well.
For sure, we all do.
Yeah, they go seeking, they give themselves away to men and they become who said it the best? I think they just become a visiting center, and it's not. You're a temple.
Wow, so powerful.
So you are not, you should treat your body as a temple, not a visiting center.
Absolutely.
So, and think about how, visiting centers are treated. It's just gross and ugly. You go in and you go out and bam, that's it. But if you look at a temple, it's like you honor it.
It's revered.
It's a sacred. Oh my goodness. It's a sacred space. So women, you need to.
That was God speaking. That was a message for. I'm just letting you know right now.
Women, if you are, because when you go through a separation, you start seeking validation from other men, right? Because it's something your husband left, right? He's gone, and now you're just like, I need approval, and you start seeking it in men. But if you don't, like Danny mentioned earlier, if you don't go within yourself, it's going to happen again. You're going to continue that cycle. You're going to repeat it, and you're going to continue to attract that same individual that did not honor you and treated you as a visiting center. You're going to continue to attract that person.
Bingo. And that's what human beings don't realize, is that until you heal, listen to me very carefully, until you heal, you're going to keep repeating the cycle. Don't think that this is where people get married and divorced 3 and 4 times. They're just repeating the cycle. They're just doing it over and over and over. And so I want to end by saying that I remember I would lay there. I would lay there in my bed, and I made the conscious decision. No one's coming over. I'm not having a drink. I'm not going out. I'm not going to go party. I'm just going to lay my ass here and deal with this shit. And that's where my growth started. And I would just cry and deal with it. I would be alone. I would call my friend Jason. Jason, I love you, Jason Crawford. You have no idea how much he helped me. He's like, bro, the beauty's on the other side of the fear. You're just going to have to sit with it. And I didn't want to sit with it. I didn't want to sit with it because I didn't know myself, Claudia. I didn't know who I was. I really didn't. And the first glimpse of hope, the first glimpse of breakthrough happened for me on on Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve 2 years ago. And, in my family, Christmas Eve is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. I can vividly remember being in New York and all the gifts piled up on top of the wall, right? Big. And it was all about us getting together and eating good food and so forth and so on. So culturally even, it was just a big deal. It was ingrained in me. And I remember this Christmas Eve, I was just by myself. And I just sat there by myself. And I was okay with it. And I was really proud of myself. I was really proud of myself because I thought to myself, this is the first time in my life that I've been alone on this day. And I feel good. And that was the first step in the first little glimpse of hope in my healing journey. And I'd love to hear from you. When do you remember how it was for you?
Yeah. So there was just many times where I would just be sitting at home. I think the biggest thing that saved me was the Peloton. Believe it or not, I cried so much on that bike. And I remember getting off of the bike and just throwing myself on the floor and just crying and crying and crying and saying, there's more to life than this situation right now. There's more to life than this. And I would pray and I would say, I just want to be healed I just want to heal so that I can help other women heal. That was my prayer from day one. I want this to be over with so that I can help other women heal. And I would sit there and just pray for that. I just want this to be over so that I can help other women. And then I would, like you mentioned, the alcohol. I would, the boys would go home. I mean, would go to school, and I would come home and I would start drinking, and I would be like a glass of wine, bottle in, 3 beers, whatever. And my middle son, he would come home and open up the trash can, and he'd say, "Oh, a bottle of wine today, huh?"
Hmm.
The next day, "Ah, 3 beers, huh?" And he knew where I would hide the alcohol. So he would go to the other trash can and say, "Oh, so you had more alcohol, huh?" And so then it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. They can't watch me become this person. They can't watch me. And so many of us turn to alcohol and other substances for healing. And truthfully, it makes things worse. It doesn't get to the nitty gritty. It doesn't get to the root of things. And so I decided to do a fitness competition, and that was my saving grace because I was forced to not drink, laugh, and socialize without alcohol. And I think that was the hardest thing. And it was something that my friends, they would, I would go out with them, and then I would tell them, I'm not drinking, so leave me alone. And I would have fun, and they would turn around and be like, I can't believe you're sober and having this much fun. And that's not a thing nowadays. It's not a thing. Like, people don't know how to have fun without alcohol.
Right.
And that forced me to tap into what I really like to do. And then that's kind of where my journey began. And then not only that, dancing without alcohol. That is something so many people cannot do. And I ended up just, and my friends would just be shocked that I'm like dancing without alcohol. They're like, I can't believe you're doing this. And I I kind of wanted them to know that they can do things without alcohol. And also I wanted to, I also, that's when, during the time where I got a womb shaman as well. And she kind of guided me throughout the whole process. But I was just, I was determined to heal. I was determined to get to the root of everything. I wanted to find answers within myself. I knew that I had the answers. I really, really did, but I didn't know how to discover them. And so for me, it was important. Like, even like, you didn't like being alone. I don't think I had so much of an issue. I knew that you didn't like being alone. I knew that was your thing. I knew that having the big parties, that was your thing. That wasn't my thing. I never liked it. You know, like, I mean, I like it, but I like more intimacy. Like, for our birthdays were 3 days apart. He would always have the big party, and I would have a small dinner. And it was just like, I like more intimacy. And but I feel like that was a defense mechanism.
Oh.
He was covering something. And so, and I'm not that type of person. I don't like to fake the funk. I like to get to the root, get to know you for who you are. And I always wanted that for him. And so, so when I was alone, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I enjoyed it. But then it got uncomfortable because I was like, I would just have a party just to have a party. But that wasn't me.
And so, I know that you had a trip for yourself on your birthday. You went to Tulum. Share with them, what was that like for you?
So that was the other thing that I was determined to, I guess, discover about myself, like what I really like. And that's part of my healing. That was part of my healing process, right? Discovering what I like to do. So for my birthday, one thing that I stopped doing when we got married was travel. I loved traveling. I remember
that was my fault, by the way.
I remember for our first, when we had our first child, I was like, I just want to get on a plane. I was pregnant. And I was like, I just want to get on the plane and go somewhere. And we went to San Francisco. And I was like, thank God I just got on a plane. Like, I loved traveling. And so one of the things that I missed was traveling. And so I went to Tulum for my birthday 2 years ago. And that was my first solo trip. And it was the most uncomfortable trip ever, but I loved it. I would wake up and I would cry. I would go to bed and I would cry because I didn't know what to do with myself.
Mm.
It was a place of discomfort as well because I would wake up and be like, am I only thinking about myself today? I don't have to worry about my kids. I don't have to worry about a husband. Like, I don't have anybody to worry about. It's just me. So what do I want to do? And I would sit there and be like, I don't know what I want to do. This is so weird. But I made it. I made a big effort to go out and do something adventurous.
Mm.
And then I did. I went to the cenotes. I went to a private beach. I went to all these. I hired a guide to tour me, to take me everywhere. I went on zip lines. I did the whole thing because that's what I like to do, and I didn't have to worry about anybody else.
It's so important that you say that, Claudia, because I feel like, the more people we are now like helping,
Mm-hmm.
the more that we have conversations, particularly with women, where their identity is found in their husband and in their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And women no longer do what they love to do. Like, there's women who, maybe used to love to paint and then stop painting because now you're so busy taking care of your kids. And I think that was a great gift that you were able to give to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But not many people are, because it's a scary gift to give to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to literally go through everything that you know and everything that you're comfortable with and ask yourself, what's inside of me and what do I really love and what do I really want? And that's where the true healing begins. And I'd like to say something. I wanna like honor Claudia for this fact, and that is that throughout our entire marriage, everything that she ever wanted for me is what I now have. And it's like she always had the answer. She always knew what was right. She always knew what was best, even when I didn't want to hear it. And I think for a lot of you men, you need to hear that, because our women are so powerful. Their intuition, their instinct is so strong that we don't honor that at times, and we don't listen to them at times. And here I am, years later, after all the pain and after all the growth, and it's like, you were right the whole time. When you wanted to go hiking, I love nature now. When you wanted to go travel, I'm taking this trip now. When you wanted to have more intimate settings, like, I don't want a big party no more. I just want small intimate settings. When you said don't buy the brand name stuff, I don't wear any brand name stuff anymore. It's like I'm in a t-shirt now. When you said, Danny, you don't need to spend all that money on that suit and they're gonna like you for who you are, I didn't know what that felt like. Thanks to Mother Aya, though, and thanks to my use of work with plant medicine, I know what that is all like now, and I can honestly say that that's been the benefit of healing, is that. And so we both want to encourage you, I feel like, in this episode, to ask yourself, what really makes you happy? What do you really want for your life? Do you spend time by yourself? Do you spend time honoring yourself? And if you don't, why don't you? Do you connect with nature? Are you meditating? Are you honoring your body with good, nutritious food? Because that's the other thing that's come out of this, with only 2 minutes left, Claudia, is that we're healthier now. We're happier now. We're in the best places we've ever been. How would you end this episode? We've got about a minute and a half left.
I think that when you really want to address the healing, you start asking yourself more questions, just like you said. And when you take that time for yourself and ask those questions, you start listening to what your body is telling you. Your body is the biggest source of just information, and you will know when you sit there by yourself. You will know where to start. People's like, I don't know where to start, but I want to heal. It's layers and layers and layers of healing. So sit there, and it's going to be one situation, another situation, another situation. One of the situations may have layers, but don't give up on yourself, because when you do that, it becomes so amazing, and you really find yourself.
And speaking about finding yourself and amazing, the topic of next week's episode is going to be one that is very important for us, and that is the power of plant medicine, and what plant medicine, specifically ayahuasca and psilocybin mushrooms, did for us. We can't wait to share with you our experience. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.